In 2024, China began building a canal through Cambodia. 180 kilometers long, Chinese-funded, Chinese-built. A direct waterway linking Cambodia's capital to the Gulf of Thailand. Vietnam suddenly had a new strategic problem. China was moving closer to its southern coastline, and Vietnam had no major port, no naval presence, and no way to closely monitor activity in the Gulf of Thailand. The response was immediate. A $4 billion deep-water port on Vietnam's southernmost island, connected to the mainland by the longest sea bridge in the country's history. Construction is already underway. Completion is planned for 2028. But this story isn't just about Vietnam. It's about what happens when a rising power changes the map. Its neighbors start building too. To understand why Vietnam is building here, you need to understand what Cambodia just did and why it matters to Hanoi. The Funan Techo Canal is a 180-kilometer waterway cutting across southern Cambodia, connecting Phnom Penh to the Gulf of Thailand. China is funding it, China is building it, and when it opens, it will give Cambodia, and by extension, China, a direct maritime corridor into the Gulf of Thailand that bypasses the Mekong River entirely. For Vietnam, this is not just an economic concern. It is a strategic one. Vietnam's southernmost province, Camau, juts into the Gulf of Thailand like a finger pointing toward the equator. For decades, this remote corner was largely ignored strategically. No major ports, no significant military infrastructure, just fishing villages, mangroves, and shrimp farms. But China now maintains preferential access at Cambodia's Ream naval base, the only Cambodian naval facility with direct sea access, rebuilt using Chinese engineers, Chinese funding, and Chinese equipment. Add the Funan Techo Canal, and Vietnam's entire southern flank becomes exposed. Ships can reach Hon Khoai Island in hours. There was nothing there to stop them. Hanoi decided that needed to change. Hon Khoai Island sits roughly 15 kilometers off the Camau coast. Small, remote, and until recently, accessible only by boat. Building anything significant there required solving one fundamental problem. How do you connect an offshore island to a mainland with no existing infrastructure across open sea in a region hit by intense monsoons? The answer is the bridge. At 18 kilometers, the Hon Khoai crossing is Vietnam's longest sea bridge, among the longest in Southeast Asia. It carries road traffic and is designed to handle heavy construction equipment and eventual cargo movement. Driving foundations into a seabed that transitions from shallow coastal waters to deeper Gulf conditions meant different engineering approaches for the same continuous structure. A challenge that has kept crews working 3 shifts a day since construction began. The port itself is dual-use, commercial and military. On the commercial side, it provides a deep-water gateway for the Mekong Delta, one of Vietnam's most productive regions, which has historically lacked direct access to international shipping routes. On the military side, it gives Vietnam a permanent naval presence at its southernmost point. Vessels capable of monitoring the Gulf of Thailand and projecting presence into waters China's network is increasingly watching. The dual-use design is deliberate. A purely military installation would be diplomatically provocative. A purely commercial port would be strategically insufficient. Combining both gives Vietnam plausible economic justification for what is fundamentally a strategic investment. Plans for Hon Khoai had circulated in Vietnamese government discussions for years. What changed in 2024 was not the idea, it was the urgency. Vietnam's concern about China's relationship with Cambodia runs deep. In 1978, Vietnam invaded Cambodia to topple the Beijing-backed Khmer Rouge regime, triggering a decade-long Vietnamese military presence. The following year, China invaded northern Vietnam, a brief but brutal conflict that left thousands dead and demonstrated China's willingness to use military force against its neighbor. That history has never been forgotten in Hanoi. In recent years, the pattern has repeated in a different form. China invested billions in Cambodia, turning Phnom Penh into what analysts describe as Beijing's closest ally within ASEAN. Cambodia blocked regional consensus on South China Sea disputes on China's behalf for years, and China rebuilt Ream Naval Base with preferential access that has never fully disappeared. The Funan Techo Canal will give ships a direct route from Phnom Penh to the Gulf of Thailand, bypassing the Vietnamese section of the Mekong that Cambodia currently depends on for sea access. Cambodia insists the canal is purely civilian, designed to reduce logistics costs and enhance its own economic sovereignty. Whether that claim holds as Chinese influence deepens in Phnom Penh is a question Hanoi has already answered with concrete and steel. Vietnam's strategy, which analysts call bamboo diplomacy, bends without breaking. Hon Khoai is the physical manifestation of that philosophy. As one expert at Singapore's ISEAS Yusof Ishak Institute put it, the project looks less like an economic bet and more like a geopolitical hedge. For Vietnam's leadership, it is something more. During a visit to the island in November 2025, General Secretary Tu Lam stood before soldiers and construction crews and declared, "Hon Khoai is not just a project, it is the oath of the nation. Each spire, each sea stake is a mark of the fatherland." Analysts describe the ambition plainly. Vietnam is turning its southern tip into a sea fortress, a permanent visible presence in waters its rivals are increasingly watching. The broader consequence is a steady militarization of Southeast Asian infrastructure. Ports are no longer just ports. Bridges are no longer just bridges. Every major construction project near a contested waterway now carries a dual purpose, even when governments describe it purely in commercial terms. In the South China Sea, Vietnam has already created over 2,200 acres of new land across 10 outposts, constructing 8 new harbors and an airstrip. The scale of Vietnam's island building is second only to China's. Both countries now operate from permanent artificial positions in contested waters. Hon Khoai is the same logic applied to the Gulf of Thailand. The bridge is still being built. The port is years from completion. The Funan Techo Canal in Cambodia is still under construction, but the sequence is already clear. China funds a canal in Cambodia. Vietnam fast-tracks a port it had been delaying for years. Each project accelerates the other. Each piece of infrastructure makes the next one more necessary. Vietnam cannot stop China from building in Cambodia. It cannot prevent Chinese access to Ream Naval Base or the Funan Techo Canal. What it can do is ensure that when those projects are complete, Vietnam has something at its southern tip that wasn't there before. A bridge, a port, a presence. The mangroves are being cleared. The foundations are going in. And somewhere on that island, soldiers and construction crews are building what their general secretary called the oath of a nation. In the Gulf of Thailand, the geography is changing, one infrastructure project at a time.